come sit beside me for a while, my dear. You know, as I settle into this old rocking chair and let the soft lamplight warm these worn hands, I remember times when the world felt both vast and intimately fragile. There were days when I too felt small, a tiny flicker against a vast tapestry of time, much like the first shy star emerging in the twilight of a quiet evening. In those moments, I learned that feeling insignificant was not a failing, but a gentle reminder of just how miraculous life is, even in its humblest details. You see, there were long stretches of my youth when the weight of questions, the ones that pressed so hard against the door of my heart, left me staring at the sky, wondering, why am I here? What is my place in this sprawling, endless universe? And I'd ask myself, is it so terrible to feel minute, just a small part of this endless turning world? My dear, the answer I slowly discovered was that feeling small is not something to be feared or shunned. Rather, it is an invitation, a quiet call to seek the depth of our souls, to find meaning in the silence and softness of our daily lives. I remember a time when the wind outside was gentle, caressing the house with a care that only nature could muster. As I listened to the rustling leaves, I thought about the tender yet persistent nudges life gives us. These moments, when everything seems to whisper questions into our ear, are opportunities to explore the landscape of our own hearts. They tell us that even when we feel so very little, there is beauty in our smallness, a beautiful sign that we are on the cusp of understanding something wonderfully deep about ourselves and our connection to the world. Now, my dear, let's talk about those feelings, those quiet shadows that sometimes fall over our days. They might come as a soft sigh when you're looking out the window, or perhaps in the quiet hum of the night when the world seems to hold its breath. Have you ever noticed how the smallest things can sometimes feel so profound? A single raindrop sliding down the window pane, the gentle glow of a street lamp cutting through the darkness, or the quiet murmur of your thoughts when no one else is listening. These are the moments that shape our inner lives. They remind us that being small is not a sign of weakness, but a delicate embrace of life's true essence. There were evenings when I would sit with a cup of tea in my favorite old mug, one that's seen many winters and countless storms, and simply let my mind wander. I'd think of all the burdens I had carried and the times I had doubted myself. And in those moments, I realized that every heavy thought, every surge of uncertainty was like a seed buried in the soil of my being. At first, it might seem as if it could never bloom, but given time, with patience and gentle care, it grew into something unexpectedly beautiful, a lesson, a memory, or a quiet revelation that we are all part of something much larger than ourselves. Remember, my dear, that those moments when you feel small are precisely when you are in touch with the very fabric of life. In our search for meaning, we often equate smallness with insignificance. But I'm here to tell you that there is deep strength in vulnerability. When you dare to feel the weight of your own smallness, you're also opening the door to a grand, unspoken wonder that resides in every quiet corner of your soul. It's like the soft piano notes in a dimly lit room, each note fragile yet capable of filling the silence with a tender, lingering melody that speaks of resilience, hope, and the sheer beauty of being. You might sometimes ask yourself, why is this so hard? Why do I feel like I'm just a whisper in a roaring crowd? And that, my child, is a question as old as time itself. Every one of us has walked that delicate line between feeling deeply connected and painfully alone. It's in those moments of apparent isolation that we have the chance to listen more closely to ourselves, to understand that the soft echoes of our doubts are not a threat, but rather an invitation to explore our innermost dreams. I recall many nights when the darkness outside mirrored the uncertainty in my heart. I would lie awake, listening to the quiet hum of the house, pondering the vast questions about existence and purpose. It was during those times of solitude that I came to understand that our smallness does not diminish our value. Instead, it enriches our experiences and teaches us the gentle art of being present. Each little moment, each small, seemingly insignificant detail adds up to create a life that is both fragile and incredibly profound. As you journey through these quiet hours, know that every time you feel small, you are not alone. Think of the countless souls who, through the ages, have also felt the cool night air and the bittersweet whisper of time passing by. We are all travelers on a shared path, carrying our own tender histories and our own secret hopes. And in acknowledging our smallness, we learn that the most meaningful connections are forged in the spaces between our doubts and our dreams. Perhaps you've noticed the way certain memories surface unexpectedly. Those gentle recollections of a smile shared, a kind word uttered, or a moment of warmth in an otherwise cold day. These memories, though fragile, are the living proof that even in our most diminutive moments, there is immense beauty to be cherished. They are like the soft glow of fireflies on a summer's night, tiny sparks of light that dance in the dark, reminding us that even a small light can brighten up the darkest corners. And so, as I speak to you now, I want you to understand that it's perfectly all right to feel small. There is grace in that humble feeling, a quiet power that comes from recognizing that we are indeed a modest part of a vast and wondrous universe. In those moments, when the weight of the world seems too heavy and your heart feels burdened, remember that you are allowed to be a whisper, a gentle presence that, in its own time, will join the chorus of life's grand symphony. Life, my dear, is not about the grand, flashy moments or the overwhelming need to be larger than life. It's in the soft cadence of our daily existence, the subtle artistry of small gestures, and the quiet echoes of our inner voice that we find our true self. Each day brings a new lesson, a delicate reminder that in the tapestry of time, it is the tiny threads, each full of quiet resilience and unspoken beauty, that weave together the story of who we are. I want you to hold this thought close. That feeling small is not a failure, but a tender beginning. It is the opening stanza of a beautiful ongoing conversation with your own heart. Let these moments of quiet introspection be your guide, illuminating the path with gentle wisdom that only comes from truly knowing yourself. And as you sit with these thoughts, allow the soft cadence of your heartbeat to remind you that every whisper of doubt carries with it the seed of something extraordinary, a promise that with time, care, and a little bit of magic, even the smallest spirit can light up the darkness. You know, sometimes in the quiet moments of our day, when the world seems to recede into a soft hum around us, I find comfort in the simplicity of nature. I recall evenings when the sky turned a deep indigo and the first silver glimmers of stars began to emerge, each one a tiny beacon in the grand expanse. It's in those moments when you feel incredibly small against the canvas of the universe that you can also feel a deep, abiding connection. Think of each star as a reminder that the universe is full of marvels, and each tiny flicker is a celebration of mystery and possibility. There are times, my dear, when you might find yourself wondering if being small means you lack importance. But let me share a secret with you. In that vast, intricate dance of existence, every small step, every modest whisper of life holds its own profound significance. Remember when you were young and every new discovery was an adventure that colored your world with wonder? Those moments weren't insignificant at all. They were the building blocks of a life steeped in beauty and meaning. And even now, when you sometimes feel like a single note in a vast symphony, know that every note matters in the grand melody of existence. Now, perhaps you ask yourself, how can something so small ever matter when the universe is so overwhelmingly vast? And that is precisely the heart of the matter, isn't it? You see, it's not about the size of the light, but about the warmth it radiates. A single candle can chase away the deepest shadows, and a single kind act can ripple out and change a life. So, when you feel insignificant, take comfort in the knowledge that even the smallest spark has the power to ignite profound change. It's funny how life has a way of showing us that the smallest details often hold the deepest truths. Do you remember the sound of rain tapping softly on the roof during a quiet afternoon? That rhythmic patter, almost like nature's own lullaby, seems to sing a song of persistence and renewal. It teaches you that every drop, no matter how modest, is vital to the creation of a nourishing stream. Likewise, every tiny experience, every flutter of hope, and every whisper of doubt adds up to create the rich tapestry of your life. Each little experience is a thread woven carefully into the fabric of who you are, and together they form a portrait of resilience, beauty, and unyielding hope. I often find myself reflecting on the days when I felt overwhelmed by the vastness of my dreams and the apparent insignificance of my actions. In those times, I'd take a long walk under the open sky, letting the cool night air fill my thoughts. With each step, I'd whisper quietly to myself, "It's all right to feel small." It's in these moments of quiet humility that you discover the true essence of your soul, and slowly the weight of my worries would lift, replaced by understanding that each of us, no matter how modest our presence may seem, plays a unique part in this intricate dance called life. I remember a particularly crisp autumn evening when the leaves danced their way down to earth, each one a delicate masterpiece in its own right. Watching them, I realized that no leaf ever complained about its fate to fall, to become part of the rich, fertile soil. In their graceful descent, they found beauty and purpose. And so it is with us. Sometimes, our moments of falling, of feeling small, are simply our way of making room for new beginnings. They are opportunities to let go of what we think we ought to be and embrace the raw, unfiltered truth of who we are. You see, my dear, there is a profound freedom in accepting the ebb and flow of our feelings. When you let yourself be vulnerable and acknowledge that it's okay to feel small, you also open the door to experiencing life's extraordinary tapestry of wonders. It is in the quiet acceptance of our own fragility that we find the strength to soar. Like a balloon that gently lifts off only when you let the air inside, our spirits can rise when we release the burden of feeling overly significant in a world that is already wondrous in its myriad details. Let me tell you about another evening, a time not too long ago, when I sat on my porch listening to the soft hum of conversation from a nearby gathering. The voices, low and comforting, blended with the chirp of crickets and the occasional rustle of a night breeze. In that serene moment, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. It was as if the night itself whispered that every small presence, every quiet breath, contributed to a larger, beautiful narrative. In that narrative, no single moment is wasted. Even the quietest times are treasured for the secrets they hold and the lessons they gently impart. It's natural to wonder, sometimes with a slight tremor in your voice, why am I so affected by these fleeting moments? And that, my dear, is the wonder of our human heart. Our ability to feel deeply, even when it seems that the sensation is of being all too small, means that we carry within us the capacity for immense empathy, for understanding beauty in its purest form. This sensitivity, while it may bring moments of solitude or melancholy, is also the very tool that allows us to connect with others on a level that transcends words. It is a gentle reminder that our shared experiences, no matter how minute, bind us together in a web of collective memory and hope. I often liken our small moments to the soft touch of a breeze on a stifling day. They may be subtle and easily overlooked, yet they have the power to soothe, to heal, and to remind us of the simplicity and grace of life. Think of a time when a simple act of kindness, a smile from a stranger, a word of encouragement, lifted your spirits in a moment of despair. In those instances, the universe whispered that you were exactly where you needed to be, and even a small gesture was enough to change the course of your day. In our journey, we sometimes stand at the crossroads of what feels like overwhelming insignificance and the dawning of a newfound strength. I remember the days when the mirror reflected not just my aging face, but also the myriad stories etched into every line and wrinkle. Each mark was a testament to a lifetime of quiet victories and tender defeats. And though I might have once yearned to appear larger than life, I learned that each of those marks was a narrative of resilience, a symbol of moments when I embraced my smallness to build something bigger from within. It makes one wonder, doesn't it, how something so seemingly minute could carry within it an ocean of stories and memories. And therein lies one of life's grandest mysteries. The paradox of our existence is that our sense of smallness often allows us to see the world with a clarity that the grandiose might miss. When you learn to treasure the gentle cadence of your own heart, you begin to notice the small miracles that pepper your days. A shared glance with a loved one, the quiet support of a friend in times of need, the subtle beauty of a sunrise breaking through the darkness. I want you to understand that these moments, as delicate as they are never wasted. They are like the soft notes of a piano playing a lullaby in the background, a melody that may be quiet, but one that resonates deeply within your soul. The tender interplay of light and shadow, of joy and sorrow, forms the very essence of your unique journey. And when you feel small, it is simply because you are precisely tuned to the gentle harmonies of the universe. A universe that, despite its vastness, cherishes even the faintest glimmers of light. And so, my dear, as you drift into the quiet hours of reflection, remember that it's okay to feel small. It is in these moments of gentle vulnerability that you find the courage to grow, to blossom, and to embrace the beauty of life in all its intricate details. Your smallness is not a void. It is a space filled with endless possibility, a canvas upon which you paint the subtle hues of your life's narrative. When you find yourself questioning, "Am I really enough?" know that the answer lies not in the size of your voice, but in the sincerity with which you speak it. Every quiet word, every soft-spoken thought carries a weight that is measured not in volume, but in the depth of its meaning. In the tender quiet, where the loud clamor of the world fades away, you can hear the true song of your soul, a song that, though whispered, reverberates across the vastness of your life. I've come to see that the beauty of being small is that it allows you to cherish every moment with a purity that the bustling noise of grandiose ambitions might cloud. In those quiet interludes, life reveals its secrets in the rustle of leaves, in the smile of a stranger, and in the gentle murmur of your own heartbeat. And as you sit in that stillness, consider that perhaps your journey is not about becoming the largest, the loudest, or the most pronounced. It's about savoring the soft, unassuming moments that, together, create a life filled with wisdom, kindness, and quiet wonder. So, if ever you pause and feel that familiar twinge of smallness, let it be a tender reminder of just how deeply connected you are to every gentle breath of life. For it is in this very sensitivity that your strength is born, a strength that comes from embracing the soft resilience inherent in every heartbeat, every whispered dream, and every fleeting moment of quiet reflection. And as the night deepens and the stars continue their silent vigil above, remember that you are cherished beyond measure. Every small experience is a precious gem, each one a silent poem inscribed upon your heart. Embrace them fully with a tender acceptance that comes only from knowing that it is perfectly fine to be small, for in the quiet spaces of life, you will always find the seeds of an everlasting, gentle beauty. You know, sometimes I sit by the window on a quiet afternoon and find myself thinking about how you might be feeling right now. Maybe a bit overlooked, or perhaps like your thoughts are drifting in a vast sea. I remember a day not too long ago when I was walking through a narrow back street in a small town. It wasn't a place marked on any grand map, but it had a charm all its own, a collection of little storefronts that each held their own quiet story. That day, I found myself pausing in front of a modest, time-worn bookstore. Even though the shop was tucked away, its windows were laden with tales that reached far beyond the physical space. It spoke of generations of dreams, losses, and the delicate persistence of hope. I stepped inside, and there was a sort of quiet energy that you can feel if you're willing to listen. Not the loud, boisterous energy of a crowded room, but the kind of simple presence that says, "I've seen days like yours, and I know how it feels." The owner, an unassuming man with gentle eyes, looked up from behind a counter cluttered with worn paperbacks. In his steady gaze, I saw not judgment or pity, but a deep understanding. He began to share with me the story of how this place came to be, a place where local folks had once gathered to swap stories and secrets over steaming cups of coffee. As he spoke, his voice was quiet yet resonant, a reminder of all the small, significant moments that often pass unnoticed in our everyday lives. That conversation nudged me into reflection. It reminded me of a time when I, too, felt rather unseen. A day when every step felt burdened by the weight of a quiet, gnawing uncertainty. I was younger then, not in age but in spirit, and I was traveling through a city that felt both dazzling and unforgiving. I wandered through crowded streets, feeling isolated amidst the hustle, my mind echoing with questions. Am I making a difference? Do these small steps count? I recall sitting on a park bench under a sky that seemed as endless as my doubts. And in that moment, I realized something subtle yet remarkable. It wasn't about filling a gap with grand events or monumental gestures. Instead, it was about recognizing that every little choice and every small step was weaving a tapestry that was uniquely mine. It might seem odd to say that being small or feeling small is a kind of quiet blessing, but I've come to appreciate that it offers you an unobstructed view of the intricate details around you. Think back to moments when you felt like you were truly watching, rather than being the center of the scene. Maybe it was a rainy morning when the world outside was wrapped in mist, and you felt safe and introspective by a window. Or perhaps it was one of those evenings when, while the world pressed on relentlessly, you found solace in your own thoughts, noticing the gentle interplay of light and shadow on familiar walls. In those times, you weren't lost. You were simply seeing things as they are, with clarity and without the burden of having to be something larger than life. I can see you might be wondering, why does it always feel like I'm just skimming the surface, never quite diving deep into the mysteries of my own existence? It's a fair question. There was a period in my life when I felt as if I was merely drifting, too small to leave any tangible mark on the world. I remember a long, quiet stretch after a series of setbacks when each day blended indistinguishably into the next. It was as if the days were whispers, easily lost in the hum of ordinary routines. Yet, during that time, something unexpected happened. I began to notice the overlooked details. A creased letter passed along quietly, the soft murmur of a neighbor's greeting, the way the light shifted gradually from one hue to another as the day progressed. These weren't dazzling moments of triumph, but rather subtle nudges that rekindled my understanding of how deeply connected all these fragments were. They were reminders that even when life feels unspectacular, there's an entire world of texture and nuance waiting to be embraced. And here's something I want you to keep in mind. Your perspective on these small moments matters more than any grand proclamation. Rather than dismissing your feelings as trivial, allow yourself to consider them as part of your journey. They're the quiet conversations you have with yourself late at night, when your thoughts are unhurried and sincere. I like to think of those evenings as chapters in a larger narrative, A story that doesn't need a dramatic climax to hold meaning. Even the softest rustle of pages turning in the quiet of night can be a moment of profound connection to who you are. You might ask, is it really okay to simply be content with noticing the little things? I believe it is. In a world where there's constant pressure to be bold and to leave a resounding mark, it can seem counterintuitive to find value in the understated. But consider the gentle way that quiet rain nourishes the earth, or the soft glow of a single lamp in a dark room. In those moments, there's a beauty that's unadorned, yet entirely complete in its simplicity. It reminds me that often the most enduring lessons come not from overwhelming triumphs or catastrophic failures, but from the everyday rhythms that quietly shape our lives. There was also a day when, feeling particularly small, I decided to revisit some old letters from my youth. They were simple, almost ordinary words pressed onto paper, yet each one carried the honest tone of a time when every sentiment, no matter how humble, mattered deeply. I read about dreams that were fragile, hopes that had yet to find their wings, and even the quiet admissions of doubt that somehow made the future seem full of possibilities. Those letters, with their scratched ink and delicate paper, spoke to me of a life that wasn't defined by grandeur. Instead, they celebrated the resilience of a spirit that found strength in its gentleness. A lesson I hope you, my dear, will carry forward in your own story. Now, think for a moment about the times when you felt that delicate tug of insignificance. Remember how, in the midst of a busy day, your heart might pause and wonder if all those small choices truly amount to something meaningful. I felt it too. And what I learned is that those moments are not a prelude to failure, but a quiet interlude in a concert of life. They offer you the chance to pause, to consider what might be overlooked in the rush of events. It is in these spaces, free from the clamor and expectation, that you often find your truest self, the part of you that is not defined by achievements or accolades, but by the simple, raw pulse of being alive. Imagine sitting here with me for just a little while longer as we share this unhurried conversation. I want you to consider that every small step, even the ones that seem barely perceptible, creates ripples. Over time, those ripples gather, slowly carving out channels of change in the vast, unpredictable landscape of life. And though you might sometimes feel like a quiet observer, remember that your presence, your unique way of seeing the world, adds a delicate brushstroke to the grand canvas of existence. I'd like to leave you with this thought, that every fleeting moment of doubt, every quiet instance when you wonder if you're too small to make a difference, is also a gentle call to notice the immense beauty in the ordinary. It invites you to reconnect with the parts of yourself that delight in simple marvels, a shared smile with a friend, the calm of a well-worn chair by a window, or even the quiet understanding that springs from looking at life without pretense. Your story, in all its softly unfolding chapters, is a tender epic of subtle moments woven together into something remarkably whole. So, as you continue your own journey, take heart in knowing that even in your smallest moments, there is a story unfolding, a story that is as real and significant as any grand tale you might hear. Trust that in this quiet reflection, you are not diminished, but instead finding a path to a deeper, more genuine understanding of who you are. And in that understanding, lies a beauty that no loud declaration or flashy moment could ever capture. Now, my dear, let's take a moment together, a gentle pause amid the hustle, to consider the days you've been living. Sometimes it feels like we're swept along by the steady current of time without ever really stopping to ask, how have I been? Think about your morning, the way you woke up, the quiet ritual of starting your day. Was it filled with a sense of purpose, or did you simply rise out of habit? As you go through your week, your month, your year, it might help to ask yourself what moments have quietly nudged your heart, and which ones have slipped by unnoticed. I recall a time when the calendar pages seemed to fly past me, each day blending into the next like soft watercolors on a rainy afternoon. It was during one of those periods that I decided, on a quiet evening, to simply sit and reflect, really look back at each day as if it were a small gem to be treasured. I thought about the time when I helped a neighbor carry grocery, the fleeting smile exchanged with a stranger on the street, or even the quiet conversations that filled my evenings. There was no grand gesture, no blockbuster moment, only the tender accumulation of small acts that, together, formed my story. Have you ever felt that your day was like a book with many short chapters, a chapter of quiet tasks, another filled with unexpected laughter, or one carved out by a long pause of solitude? It's in those everyday chapters that the real narrative of your life unfolds. When you look back on your week, what stands out? Perhaps it's not the busy schedule or the milestones you ticked off a list, but rather the subtle ways your heart reached out in moments of connection. A kind word from a friend, the soothing hum of your favorite song playing softly in the background, or the peaceful silence just before sleep. Each of these moments reflects the unique rhythm of your life. Now, let's go even deeper. Think about your month or even your year as a collection of these small, quiet moments. What stories do they tell? Maybe this past month taught you about patience, or perhaps it revealed the strength in vulnerability. Sometimes we overlook these lessons because they don't come wrapped in grandeur. Instead, they arrive gently, like a soft knock at the door when you're least expecting it. I remember once, after a long span of seemingly ordinary days, I looked back and realized how much I had grown simply by feeling each moment fully, even the ones that seemed insignificant at the time. There was an unspoken wisdom in a quiet perseverance of living, in celebrating every tiny victory and learning from every small stumble. I want you to think about your own life in a similar way. Recall a day when the morning light broke through the window just as you were lost in thought. Maybe a week ago, you found yourself pausing amidst your routine, noticing the way the afternoon sun cast a different shade on familiar surroundings. These are the markers of a life lived with a mindful awareness, a recognition that even the most unremarkable moments contain seeds of growth and learning. It's not about comparing your journey to grand adventures or monumental events. It's about honoring your personal narrative, every single chapter, however quiet it may seem. Let's talk about the days that might have felt a little heavy or unusually slow, when the clock ticked by and you felt as though nothing significant happened. I used to think that those were wasted moments, but then I realized something precious. Those quiet intervals are exactly when our minds and hearts have the space to process, to dream, and to simply be. They allow us to rest and prepare for the bright, bustling moments that follow. In that gentle stillness, we often find the clarity to appreciate the simple beauty of our existence, the way the familiar becomes a silent teacher that gently guides us to a deeper understanding of ourselves. Have you ever sat down after a long day and, with a soft sigh, reflected on the little joys and quiet sorrows that made up your hours? Maybe you noticed the way your thoughts wandered like a lazy river, meandering through memories and hopes. That reflection, however light or fleeting, is a testament to the depth of your inner life. It's in these moments that you might see, without the glare of busyness, the tender interplay of your emotions, a mix of fleeting hopes, careful doubts, and small affirmations that whisper, "You are here, and that is enough." There's a certain grace in allowing yourself these reflective pauses, in evaluating each day not by a checklist of achievements, but by the warmth of the moments that touched you. It could be the sound of laughter echoing softly in your ear, or the gentle reminder of a shared glance with someone who understood without words. Think about it. Each day, like every season, carries its own flavor. And while a single day might seem like a mere drop in an endless ocean, over time, those drops shape the contours of your life's unique landscape. Perhaps you've been carrying unspoken questions too. Quiet contemplations about whether your actions, however small, have made a difference. Trust me when I say that they have. There was a time when I wandered through days feeling unremarkable, questioning if my seemingly minor efforts ever counted. Then one twilight, as I sat in the soft glow of a street lamp, I began to see that every thoughtful word, every small kindness had a ripple effect. It wasn't about grand declarations or monumental choices. It was the cumulative effect of living with intention, of cherishing the little, understated moments that gently guide us along our path. So, as you ponder over your day, week, month, or even your entire year, try to see the beauty in the details, the laughter, the quiet tears, the moments that made you pause and wonder, is this all there is? And then gently remind yourself that every day, in its own soft way, is a mosaic of meaning. It's a reminder that you don't have to be loud to be heard or grand to be seen. Your quiet reflections, your honest evaluations, and the small, tender moments that color your everyday life are what make you truly remarkable. Every time you assess your time, consider it a personal tribute to the simplicity of being. Instead of measuring success by how big your footprints are, consider the depth of the impressions you leave behind on others and on yourself. Even the softest murmur of self-reflection has the power to transform the way you see yourself and the world around you. I ask you, in this peaceful moment of reflection, to really sit with these thoughts. Look back at your recent days and ask, were there moments when a quiet smile crossed your face even without knowing why? Times when you felt a gentle satisfaction just from simply being who you are. In those moments, your heart learned something important about perseverance and subtle strength. They may not shout for attention, but their quiet resilience is the foundation of a life lived with depth and empathy. As you continue along your path, remember that evaluating your days does not mean dwelling on them with harsh judgment. Rather, it is an act of kindness towards yourself. A gentle review that allows you to recognize the beauty in your small, often hidden moments. Each day, each week, each month is a chapter written in the ink of your experiences. And while some chapters might seem quiet or unremarkable, when read together, they tell a story of quiet courage and heartfelt living. Take this gentle time to be with yourself, to appreciate your efforts, and to honor the subtle harmony of your life. In recognizing the worth of each tender moment, you find that every single day, no matter how ordinary it might seem, holds a special kind of magic, a kind of quiet wisdom that speaks softly, urging you to continue on this journey with an open heart and a clear mind. So tonight, as the day draws to a close, allow yourself to sit quietly and reflect, much like I am doing now with you. Let the softness of your memories guide you, not as burdens to carry, but as quiet trophies of a life well lived. And when tomorrow comes, greet it with the gentle assurance that your small, honest steps are a part of a larger, wonderfully intricate dance. A dance that, in its unassuming grace, is utterly and profoundly your own. You know, there was a time in my own life when I felt like I was simply drifting along, not sure which way to turn. I wasn't always this steady, reflective soul you might see today. In fact, there was a period, long enough to leave its mark, when the world seemed both endless and utterly quiet, with all its grandeur somehow out of my reach. I was young then, brimming with plans and restless energy. I thought I had to be big and bold, carving my mark on the world every day. But as the years passed, I learned that life doesn't always show its worth in loud victories or grand adventures. Often, it whispers its secrets in quiet moments of self-reflection. I remember vividly one day that changed my perspective. I was returning home from a long day's work, my steps heavy with the burden of unfulfilled dreams. The city streets were bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, casting long shadows on the pavement. I took a detour through a little park, a place I rarely visited, and there, on a worn wooden bench beneath a sprawling oak tree, I paused. My mind was awash with all the hopes I had once believed would burst forth, and suddenly I was overwhelmed by the simple truth that I was just one person among countless others, each on their own quiet journey. As I sat there, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves around me, and for a long moment I closed my eyes. I let myself feel all the emotions that had been swirling around inside: regret for missed chances, a touch of sorrow for old mistakes, and a quiet, persistent hope that maybe, just maybe, every small step forward counted. In that reflective silence, I came to understand that my smallness was not something to lament, but a precious reminder of my individuality, of the unique way I had experienced life. It was as if the park, with its humble beauty, had handed me a gentle nudge. Your journey is yours alone, and every tiny moment is part of your legacy. From that day forward, I started to embrace my life's quieter chapters. I learned to value the soft routine of everyday moments, the familiar creak of the floorboards at night, the faint aroma of fresh coffee in the morning, the genuine smile of a neighbor. These simple experiences became my milestones. They marked my passage through time with quiet significance. I even began keeping a small journal, jotting down my reflections at the end of each day. I wasn't recording heroic exploits or monumental achievements. Rather, I was noting the little sparks of joy, the soft echoes of pain, and the subtle ways in which I grew and adapted over time. And you know what? That process turned out to be a gentle mirror, reflecting back the truth that life isn't measured solely by those thunderous, unforgettable moments. Often, it's measured by how we learn to live with the softer, quieter parts of ourselves, the parts that maybe, at first, seem so fragile and insignificant. I started to see my own story as a patchwork quilt of moments, each one tenderly sewn into the fabric of my being. There were days that shone like polished gemstones, and others that were as unassuming as a faded photograph tucked away in a drawer. Yet, every piece was essential. When I think back, there was another time, a winter long ago, when I felt utterly lost amidst the chill of life's demands. I had weathered a storm of disappointments, and for a time, the cold of uncertainty seemed to settle right in my bones. One particularly frosty evening, as I walked along a quiet street adorned with the soft glow of streetlights, I paused to warm my hands on the chilly railing of a bridge. It was then that an old friend, by sheer coincidence, stopped to chat. We walked side by side, our voices low and reflective, sharing stories of old and pondering over the days that had slipped away too quickly. That conversation stayed with me. It wasn't filled with grand advice or high-flying rhetoric. It was simply honest, straightforward talk, an exchange between two souls who knew that the true measure of a life is often hidden in its plain, unvarnished moments. I realized, as we wandered under a sky scattered with stars, that the very act of sharing our vulnerabilities made them lighter. Our smallness, with all its doubts and quiet resilience, was something we carried together, weaving a bond that made the world seem a little less vast and the night not so dark. So here I am now, talking to you, my dear, as we both journey through our own quiet passages of life. I want you to know that it's perfectly fine to feel a little small at times. It's a natural part of being human. Every day, as you engage with the world and with your own thoughts, remember that your experiences, each reflective pause, each soft exchange, are the building blocks of who you are. They are your stories, your memories, your lessons. And it's in the weaving of these moments that you find not just your strength, but a unique kind of wisdom, a gentle, reassuring knowledge that you matter in ways that cannot always be measured by grandeur, but rather by the quiet impact you leave on the hearts of those around you. Take a moment now to reflect on your own day, on those simple details that often go unacknowledged. Perhaps it's the sound of your footsteps on familiar pavement, or the subtle way light plays on the surface of your belongings. Maybe it's the warmth of a shared laugh, or the soft resolve that followed a challenging moment. Embrace these nuances, for they are the silent milestones of your life's journey, each one as important and valued as the next, stitching together a story that is all your own. In sharing my story with you, I hope you see that feeling small is not a deficit, but an invitation, a quiet call to observe, reflect, and ultimately to connect with the tender beauty of your own existence. Let each day remind you that no matter how modest your steps may appear, they are your own, and they lead you steadily along a path that, in its simple honesty, is profoundly meaningful. You know, as we come to the end of this little journey together, I can't help but feel a gentle warmth We've shared some quiet reflections, haven't we? And before you go on with your day, or your week, or perhaps even a brand new year, take a moment to let these thoughts settle softly around you. Remember, the small moments, the daily little sparks of wonder, carry a magic of their own. I've seen it in my own lifetime and again. It's in the way the morning light tips over the sill, or how the sound of your own footsteps becomes a familiar friend on a quiet afternoon. I like to think back on those days when even a shared smile had the power to transform a heavy heart. I remember one day when the sky was a clear blue and the air tasted of promise, almost as if the world was softly nudging me to notice the little details. I was on my usual walk when I caught sight of an elderly couple sitting together on a park bench. They weren't talking much, but there was a comfort in their silence, an unspoken understanding that every quiet second mattered. It wasn't a grand, noisy scene, but it spoke volumes about the beauty of simply being. That memory always reminds me that even when life seems modest, it's brimming with moments that are deeply personal and full of meaning. Now, think about your own path. What has your day whispered to you? Was it a fleeting moment of laughter during breakfast, a gentle conversation with a friend, or the way the sunset transformed the mundane into something quietly extraordinary? Maybe you've started noticing how the routine, the warm cup of tea, the rustle of the newspaper, or even just the way your thoughts wander, holds a secret richness that often escapes the rush of our busy lives. There's a lightness in knowing that each day, each week, each month carries a subtle narrative of its own. I used to worry a lot about making a big mark, to have moments that everyone remembered. But over time, I learned that the world doesn't need us to be giants. It only asks for us to be genuine. And in our honesty, in every small act of kindness and every whisper of vulnerability, we contribute to a larger mosaic of shared humanity. Think of it this way. If every soft moment were a note, your life is a gentle melody that plays over the quiet hum of existence, a melody that stays with those who take a moment to truly listen. So, as you go about your evenings now, or whenever your day winds down, I invite you to pause a while longer. Notice that familiar quiet. Let it remind you that while you might sometimes feel small, you are part of a vast interconnected story. Each reflective moment, whether it's looking at your reflection in a dimly lit mirror or simply sitting with your thoughts on a calm night, is a building block of a story worth telling. Your story is made up of these unassuming chapters, each a testament to resilience, honesty, and the subtle beauty of simply being here. And that, my dear, is what I'd like you to carry with you. A quiet confidence that every little moment, no matter how modest, contributes to the beauty of your journey. Life might often whisper rather than shout, and in its soft voice, it offers you the chance to understand that being small is not a limitation, but rather a gentle reminder that you're perfectly in tune with the world around you. So next time you feel that soft tug of insignificance, take it as a sign, a nudge from life encouraging you to look a little closer at the everyday wonders you pass by. Embrace the tender moments of reflection that make up your day, and remember that you are, in every delicate instance, making a difference in ways that might not immediately be seen. Your quiet presence, your authentic self, adds up to something remarkable. Take a deep breath now, my dear, and let that sensation of peaceful smallness fill you with a sense of calm purpose. Know that whether it's a sunny morning or a reflective evening, every moment you live, every small step you take is exactly as it should be, a part of a truly beautiful, ever-unfolding narrative. And in that narrative, your gentle spirit, soft as it might seem at times, shines ever so brightly. And maybe that's the quiet gift of feeling small. It reminds you, you were never meant to hold the whole world in your hands. You were only ever asked to hold your little corner of it, to notice the simple things, to care in the quiet ways, to love without needing to be seen. I suppose that's what I'd want you to carry with you long after this moment ends. Not a lesson, not advice. Just a gentle reminder from someone who's lived enough days to know you don't have to be extraordinary to matter. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to fill every room to belong. It's enough to be here, breathing, noticing, caring, even if no one else sees it but you. Sometimes, being small is not a problem to fix. It's a gift to receive. So, take your time. Be small, be quiet, be gentle, and know, in this big, busy, rushing world, there's still beauty in your quiet life. And I, for one, am so very glad you're here. That's all, my dear. Rest well tonight. You've done enough. You are enough. Always have been and always will be.